Hi, my name is Taylor Adair, and today I will be presenting on resilience. So, why resilience? As an athlete and a coach, I've had many experiences with failure or setbacks, and while you might take that loss you weren't expecting, or you miss that game-winning goal, you don't make the block, all of those failures or setbacks might feel like they're too much to overcome, or it might cause a snowball effect that affects the rest of your game. But a resilient athlete or a resilient coach is going to be able to bounce back from those moments. And both athletes and coaches need to be able to experience failure and grow from it rather than self-destruct. Now, what is resilience? Resilience is defined as an ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. It can also be defined as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties or adversity. A couple quick synonyms for resilience that get thrown around are mental toughness, the ability to rebound, or bouncing back. No matter what you want to call it, resilience only emerges in the face of failure, hardship, or setbacks. So unless an athlete or a coach is tested, they will not have the opportunity to show that they are resilient. Continuing with what is resilience, there's a quote from Bruce Brown's Teaching Character Through Sport that I think directly relates to resilience. And while we just use mental toughness as a synonym for resilience, I think it applies perfectly. Mental toughness in an athlete is a quality that allows that individual to remain confident, enthusiastic, and positive. Athletes who are mentally tough simply cannot have their spirit broken. They can be knocked down, but not out. A mentally tough team can lose to the same opponent 10 times and look forward to the next opportunity for a rematch. So it's just that spirit of, I'm always going to try again, I'm always going to try harder the next time, I'm going to do what it takes to try and get that success that I want. So a couple famous examples of resilience, the movie about Rocky Balboa, the boxer, right? And then there's Bethany Hamilton, the surfer. And there's Michael Jordan, the NBA player and team owner. And I think all three of these are perfect examples of resilience. So with Rocky Balboa, the movie from 2006, there's a quote, "It ain't about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much can you take and keep moving forward?" So even though you're experiencing those setbacks, can you get back up and push yourself to continue to try even harder the next time? With Bethany Hamilton, her story is pretty wild. So at 13 years old, Bethany Hamilton was beginning to find her way onto the Hawaii surf circuit, but in 2003 she went out surfing with her friends for fun and was attacked by a 15-foot tiger shark. She ended up losing her left arm all the way up to the shoulder joint, and while many people might never go in the water again after an incident like that, she was back in the water 4 weeks later. She worked with her father to come up with ways to modify her surfboard so that she could continue to compete. She worked on methods with her brother for how to train the best way possible so she could still compete with people that didn't have the disability that she did now. And she returned to competition in 2004, and she's had a ton of success, including 6 first-place titles. And so even though she faced that major hardship and had to relearn how to do everything with one arm or with one hand, she showed resilience and continued to push her professional surfing dreams rather than just giving up, where it could have been very easy to do so. I included a link on this PowerPoint slide to an interview with Bethany Hamilton while she was young, right after the incident, being interviewed by Oprah Winfrey. Moving on to Michael Jordan, he has a quote, it's one of my favorites. It goes, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." And I think it's really important that both athletes and coaches understand that failure can be a good thing. If you fail, now you have something to push yourself even harder from. You have something to analyze, figure out why it happened, and then make a plan so that it doesn't happen to you again. With Michael Jordan specifically, his famous story is that he got cut from his high school basketball team. And while he could have just given up in that moment and forgot about his dreams of being an NBA player, he continued to pursue. And aside from his resilience as an athlete, he also showed the same character trait when it came to taking over ownership of the Charlotte Bobcats. They had one of the worst records in any team in the NBA's history. And while that alone is daunting enough to not want to take the challenge, he decided he was going to take the helm. And he rebranded them to the Charlotte Hornets. He became more involved in the community and trying to create that fan base around them. He hired a former member of the Lakers coaching staff to try and pick up what the head coach had been lacking, and he used some of his own money to cover previous budget losses. And so instead of just walking away from that failed program, he instead put even more into it to try and see if he could get them to that success he knew they could have. By the time the 2013-2014 season came around, they had a winning record and they made it to the playoffs. So I think that that alone is like a really great example of resilience. So what does it mean to be resilient in sport? Resilient athletes are not fearless by any means, but they understand how to bend under pressure rather than break under pressure, and they can pick themselves up and they can continue on and not just let that failure get them down. They have the mental skills in order to cope with the pressure they're faced with, instead of just getting all of these emotions and not being able to do anything with them. And I've included a YouTube link here to a short little clip about diving further into the idea of bending under pressure rather than breaking. So go ahead and take a look at that if you want. Moving on to some qualities of resilient people. I believe that resilient people see challenges, and not only do they see challenges, but they create opportunities for personal challenge. They commit to goals. They don't just set them and forget about them. They focus on what they can control, so this really pushes autonomy and responsibility. They think positively, so they're able to manage their emotions and they don't let the negative emotions take over. And then they don't blame themselves. They're able to look at things objectively after the fact. So here we have an infographic that shows other qualities that people with resilience might exhibit, which include self-esteem, self-control, social skills and understanding that it's okay to get help from others, problem-solving skills, and willingness to overcome difficulties rather than avoid problems. I think this presents a lot of really good qualities that people that are resilient exhibit. So then there's a 4-step process for increasing resiliency called the ARS method. The more it's practiced, the quicker the process will occur, the more resilient an athlete or a coach will become. So the A stands for acknowledge. They must accept the error, take ownership of the error, and then recognize the frustration that caused it. And once they've acknowledged it, it's time to review it. So now they review the play or the game, they determine how the error occurred and determine why it occurred. So you're figuring out where you went wrong. And then the S is for strategize. This is where you make your corrective action plan. And while you can get help with that action plan, the person who takes ownership of the error should really be the one that takes ownership of the corrective strategy as well. And then finally, you have the E, which stands for execute. So you have to continue to perform and return back to the game or be ready for that next game. So you're preparing for the next time that you're faced with that situation. You don't dwell on the error longer than necessary. So to wrap it up here, resiliency in coaching, it's super important that you exemplify it and you foster it with the kids that or the athletes that you're working with. You cannot let a loss deter individual or team progress, and a resilient coach is going to have much more success than a coach who takes a loss, gets angry, has negative emotions about it, and then doesn't use it to grow. You want to be able to use that 4-step method to look at where you went wrong, be able to brush yourself back off and immediately step back into that game or be ready for that next game. But either way, it's just really important that it's a get back up, can-do attitude rather than I feel so bad for myself, I can't believe I did that, I can't go on. You want to make sure that you're always pushing to get better, striving for more. And so failure is just a stepping stone on your way to success. Thank you.